Once upon a time, in a vibrant village, there lived a young lady named Bolu. Bolu was a special girl with a big smile and sparkly eyes. She was the only child of her parents. Everyone in the village who knew her would say, "Look, there goes Bolu, the gem of our village." Bolu's mother and father loved her very much. They had a mansion with many rooms filled with laughter and love. Around the house, expansive farms were brimming with a variety of fruits and vegetables and fields that stretched far and wide beneath the golden sun. Her father owned the biggest fabric stores in the market, where people came from all over to buy fabric. Bolu's parents gave her everything she needed, and her heart was full of joy. Everywhere Bolu went, she went with her mother and father. They took her to colorful markets, and to visit friends in nearby villages. Everyone who met Bolu loved her because she was kind and sweet, just like her parents. But the best part of Bolu's house was the secret. There was one room that nobody ever went into, even Bolu hasn't gone in there. It was the mystery room, and it made her home feel like a castle with hidden treasures. So, in her big beautiful mansion, with her loving mother and father, Bolu's life was like a wonderful dream. And that's how the story of Bolu began, a girl whose life was filled with laughter, joy, and a secret waiting to be discovered. One sunny day, something very sad happened. Bolu's mother and father went on a trip to visit some friends in another village. They were traveling in their luxurious jeep, the one painted with white. Bolu didn't go with them because she was a bit under the weather, so she stayed at home, resting. But that day, the road was trickier than anyone expected. It twisted and turned faster and wilder than usual. Bolu's mother and father tried to steer their jeep carefully, but a truck came speeding toward them from the opposite direction. Suddenly, with a loud crash, their car skidded off the road and flipped over. It was a terrible accident, and sadly, Bolu's mother and father didn't survive, leaving little Bolu all alone in the world. When the news reached the village, everyone felt great sadness. Bolu was very, very sad. She missed her mother and father so much. Her tears fell like raindrops, and her smile was gone. The villagers, who loved her parents and her, came to her house. They brought her food, hugged her, and cried with her to show respect for her mother and father. The people in the village did something very special to honor her parents. They decided to close the market for a few days. No one bought or sold anything. Instead, they remembered all the good times they had with Bolu's parents. They talked about how kind and generous they were and how they made the village a brighter place. The vibrant village was quiet during those days, quieter than it had ever been. Everyone was mourning, showing their love for Bolu's family and hoping to comfort her in her big loss. And so, the village stood still. The young lady with the big smile, now filled with sadness, learned that sometimes, even in the brightest places, sad things can happen. But her village was with her, holding her hand through it all. In Bolu's big, beautiful mansion, where every room was filled with laughter and love, there was one different room. It was the forbidden room, a room so secret that even Bolu, the baby of the house, was never allowed to peek inside. This room had a big old wooden door with a heavy lock that glinted in the sunlight. The key to the lock was hidden, and nobody talked about where it might be. The walls around the door were draped in colorful cloth, making it look mysterious and important. Now, this wasn't just any room. Oh no, it was a room wrapped in whispers and shadows. The older servants in the house, those who had been there since Bolu was just a baby, knew there was something wrong with this room. They knew that it held a secret so big that it could scare the stars away from the sky. Long ago, before Bolu was born, some curious servants wondered what was behind that door. They tried to listen at the keyhole or peek under the door, but, oh dear, those who tried too hard to find out the secret disappeared just like that, poof. One day, they were there, and the next day, they were gone. Nobody knew where they went, and after a while, no one dared to talk about them anymore. The other servants whispered among themselves, "Never go near that room. If you do, you might vanish too, like the wind that disappears at the end of the day." So, they just cleaned around the door, never touching it, always walking past it quickly with their heads down. Bolu knew there was something wrong with the room, of course. Her parents had always told her, "That's a special room, my dear." But because they had forbidden her to enter, she believed it was best to respect their wishes and leave it alone. It's for the best. Because she loved and trusted them, Bolu never questioned their words. She simply nodded, even as her little heart raced every time she passed by the forbidden door, a mix of curiosity and unease stirring within her. So the room stayed locked and silent, holding its breath and its secrets, while the big house boomed with life around it. It was like a quiet shadow in a sea of sunshine, always there, always waiting. After the sad loss of her parents, Bolu needed help to take care of her big beautiful mansion. One sunny morning, she decided to find new helpers. That's when she met Tolu and Bayo, two servants from the village. They were known for being very kind and hardworking, and everyone liked them because they always smiled and said nice things. Tolu was as bright as the morning sun, always ready to lend a hand or share a laugh. Her colleague Bayo was just as cheerful but a bit quieter, always thinking, always watching carefully to learn things quickly. They became very close, like siblings, helping each other and sharing their experiences as they worked together. Bolu liked them right away. She saw how neatly they did their work and how politely they spoke to everyone. "You two will be perfect for my mansion," she told them with a hopeful smile, trying to make her big, quiet mansion feel like a home again. The two servants were happy to help Bolu. They moved into the servants' quarters and started their new jobs the very next day. They swept the floors, polished the furniture, and made sure everything in the house was just right. Tolu loved to sing while she worked, and her voice was so sweet that even the birds would stop to listen. Bayo, on the other hand, was great at fixing things. No broken gate or leaky roof lasted long with him around. As they worked, they respected all the house's rules, especially the one about the forbidden room. They had heard whispers about it from the other servants. "That's the room no one goes into," they were told, and they nodded seriously, understanding the importance of the rule. Bolu felt a little lighter with the two servants around. Their cheerful ways brought new life to the mansion, filling it with warmth that had long been missing. Tolu had a knack for making her laugh with her stories and songs, while Bayo's steady presence and reassuring words made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. Their loyalty was clear in every small act, from the way they carefully tended to the garden her parents loved to the way they always checked on her before bed. With Tolu and Bayo there, the shadows in the corners of the vast mansion seemed a little less dark, and the heavy silence that once loomed now felt softer, almost welcoming. The once cold and empty halls began to feel alive again, with the sounds of footsteps, laughter, and the occasional clatter of dishes in the kitchen. For the first time since the accident, Bolu began to believe that maybe, just maybe, the mansion could feel like home again. Days after, life at Bolu's mansion began to settle into a new rhythm, with the warmth of Tolu's laughter and the steady hum of Bayo's chatter filling the once quiet halls. The days felt lighter, almost normal, as if the house itself had started to breathe again, but the secret of the forbidden room lingered a shadow in the back of Bolu's mind. A question left unanswered. It hovered in the air like a whisper, weaving through the walls, waiting. Always waiting. The first anniversary of Bolu's parents' passing was approaching, and the whole house was busy preparing for the remembrance ceremony. It was a big event in the village, and everyone wanted everything to look perfect to honor their memory. Tolu and Bayo were especially busy cleaning every corner and making sure the house sparkled. As they cleaned, they moved from room to room, dusting, sweeping, and arranging, but there was one room they hadn't touched, the forbidden room. Tolu, ever curious, noticed that despite all their cleaning, the door to that room stayed firmly shut. Its locks are shiny and unmarked by fingerprints. One day, while they were preparing, Tolu turned to Bayo and whispered, "Have you ever wondered what's inside that room? We've cleaned everywhere else, but that room. We've never even opened the door." Bayo looked at the door, his eyes filled with curiosity but also caution. "Yes, but remember what the others said. It's forbidden for us, for anyone. We shouldn't think about it too much." But the question had already planted itself in Tolu's mind. Later that day, she found a moment to ask Bolu. "Miss Bolu," she began gently, "there's one room we haven't cleaned. With so many people coming for the ceremony, shouldn't we clean it too?" Bolu, who was arranging some gifts, paused and looked towards the forbidden room. Her face turned a bit serious, and her voice was firm. "No, Tolu. That room is fine. It doesn't need to be cleaned. And I need you to promise me, You and Bayo, never to worry about that room. It must stay closed. Talou nodded, a little disappointed, but respecting Bolu's wishes. Yes, Miss Bolu, she replied. But the mystery of the room tugged at her heart. Why was it so important to keep it closed? What is inside that made it so special? That evening, Talou and Bayo talked about it in hushed tones. Maybe it's full of treasure, Talou guessed, her imagination running wild. Or maybe it's a secret place where stories of old are kept, Bayo added, loving a good mystery as much as his companion. Despite their curiosity, they both agreed to follow Bolu's instructions. They didn't go near the room again, focusing on their duties and the upcoming ceremony. But the seed of wonder had been sown, and both knew that the question of what lay behind that locked door wouldn't leave them alone. It was a riddle wrapped in a mystery, hidden just out of reach, and it called to them, soft and persistent, in the quiet moments of their days, as the day of the remembrance ceremony approached. The village buzzed with excitement. Visitors from nearby and far-off villages began to arrive, their chatter and footsteps filling the air with a mix of anticipation and reverence. Bolu's home became the focal point of the preparations, with guests admiring its grandeur and the careful attention to detail in every arrangement. Talou and Bayo worked tirelessly, ensuring each guest felt welcome and the house was flawless. Yet, the influx of visitors and the constant discussions about honoring the past only deepened the allure of the forbidden room. It seemed to call out to them, a soft, persistent whisper beneath the lively commotion of the house. One quiet evening, after a long day of preparations, Talou and Bayo sat together in the kitchen. The mansion had fallen silent for a while, and the two began to share their thoughts. Everyone's talking about memories and secrets, Talou said, her eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and curiosity. And here we are, with a room full of secrets in this house, yet we know nothing about it. Bayo nodded, his curiosity stirred by the day's conversations. It's strange, isn't it? A part of the house we're not allowed to see. What could be so important or so dangerous that it has to remain hidden from us? Though they both knew they'd been warned never to enter, the mystery felt impossible to ignore. They decided they had to uncover what lay behind the door of the forbidden room. But we need to be careful, Bayo cautioned, his practical side taking over. We can't just barge in. We need a plan, something to make sure we don't end up like those who vanished. Talou nodded with a determined look. All right, here's the plan, she whispered. One of us will go in first, while the other stays by the door. Bayo glanced at the heavy door ahead and swallowed hard. Okay, but we won't stay long. Just a quick look, right? Exactly, Talou said, her voice firm. Whoever goes in will take a quick look around and then come back to tell what they found. No messing around, no risks. Bayo nodded slowly, his nerves showing. All right, let's do it. But we have to be careful. No getting into trouble. Talou gave a faint smile. We'll be fine, she said, though her hands trembled slightly. Their simple but smart plan was set, and there was no turning back.